Hello and welcome to the Luv Doc podcast.
All right, listeners, buckle up because this Luv Doc is going to be a wild ride. We're about to unpack some Thanksgiving drama that goes way beyond just figuring out how to roast a turkey.
You know, it's fascinating how food, especially during the holidays, becomes such a loaded symbol.
It really does.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's revealing some serious relationship tension.
Absolutely. We're diving into an advice column from the Luv Doc, and let me tell you, their advice is as spicy as that cranberry sauce your aunt always brings to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, definitely spicy.
Oh.
So to set the scene, our listener, feeling foul, wants to cook a turkey for her boyfriend's family Thanksgiving, which is a pretty big gesture, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It takes a lot of effort to cook a big meal like that, especially when you're trying to impress your significant other's family.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. Her boyfriend isn't exactly thrilled about her culinary ambition. In fact, he's suggesting she stick to side dishes.
Ooh, that's gotta sting.
Right. And it gets worse. He even criticizes her cooking, saying her chicken always turns out dry and that he can only imagine her turkey will taste just as bland.
See, that word bland really jumps out at me. It's not just about the flavor. It's like he's dismissing all the effort and care that goes into cooking.
Yeah, I totally see that. It's like he's saying her cooking isn't good enough for his family.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what's really going on beneath the surface? Is it just about the food, or is there something deeper at play here?
Well, Luv Doc definitely picks up on that deeper layer. Their response is pure comedy gold.
Oh, yeah. They go all out. They literally list all the things they'd rather do than cook a turkey, including wrestling a rabid honey badger and performing open-heart surgery on themselves using a spork.
Okay, that's hilarious. But amidst all the jokes, I think the Luv Doc is making a serious point.
Right. They're acknowledging that turkey is notoriously difficult to cook well. And all that pressure to create this perfect Thanksgiving meal can be overwhelming.
Especially when you factor in the historical weight of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving carries so much baggage as this big unifying tradition, but we often forget where it comes from and how its meaning has evolved over time.
You're right. And a Luv Doc even jokes about the first Thanksgiving, picturing the Wampanoag people thinking, great more bland, dry bird from these pale newcomers.
It's a funny way to remind us that maybe this whole turkey tradition is adding to the pressure.
So it's like Feeling Foul's boyfriend is caught up in this idea of the perfect Thanksgiving turkey. And instead of talking to her about it, he's projecting all those anxieties onto her cooking.
It's definitely a possibility. And it's not just about the turkey. He even says no one will eat it, and he doesn't want to haul leftovers back home, which feels really dismissive of her efforts.
Right. It's like he's shutting down the whole idea of her cooking without actually explaining why it bothers him so much.
And that lack of open communication can be a recipe for disaster in any relationship, especially when you throw in the stress of holiday expectations.
Not to mention the underlying tension about gender roles in the kitchen. You know, that old-fashioned idea that women are supposed to be the cooks.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Luv Doc picks up on this too because their advice gets pretty blunt.
Oh, yeah. They tell Feeling Foul to stop cooking for her boyfriend entirely until he starts showing some genuine appreciation.
It's a bold move for sure.
Yeah.
But they're basically saying, hey, you deserve to have your efforts acknowledged. You're not obligated to be the designated chef in this relationship.
It's about setting boundaries and recognizing one's own worth.
Right. And the Luv Doc even challenges the boyfriend to step up and cook something himself, suggesting that maybe he's hiding behind these criticisms because he's intimidated by the kitchen.
They even call him out, saying, maybe it's time for Mr. Macho to trade in his football for a spatula.
Which is a pretty hilarious image.
It is. And it also points to this larger conversation about how we're redefining masculinity and domesticity.
Exactly. It's not just about the turkey anymore. It's about challenging outdated expectations and finding new ways to connect with each other through food.
Wow. So we've gone from a question about a dry turkey to a deep dive into relationship dynamics, gender roles, and even pop culture.
That's the magic of the Luv Doc. They always manage to uncover those hidden layers of meaning.
And I have a feeling we're just getting started. We'll be back after a quick word from our sponsors to dissect even more of the Luv Doc's wisdom and see how this Thanksgiving drama unfolds. Welcome back, listeners. We were just talking about Feeling Foul and how the Luv Doc basically told her to stop cooking for her boyfriend until he learns to appreciate her efforts.
Yeah, the Luv Doc really doesn't hold back, do they?
Not at all. And they definitely don't let the boyfriend off the hook easily. They actually go on to question his cooking skills, wondering if he's even capable of boiling water without setting off the smoke alarm.
Oh, that's classic Luv Doc, always using humor to make a point.
Right. But I wonder, is there something to that? Could the boyfriend's criticism be coming from a place of insecurity about his own culinary abilities?
I think that's a really interesting point. The Luv Doc seems to think so too. They even say something like, maybe if Mr. Blanderama spent less time critiquing and more time chopping veggies, he'd discover a hidden talent.
And that makes me think about how cooking is often seen as this test of masculinity, especially for men of a certain generation.
Oh, totally. Like if you can't grill a steak or carve a turkey, you're somehow less of a man.
Exactly. There's all this cultural baggage that comes with cooking, and it can be especially heavy for men who feel pressure to conform to these traditional gender roles.
And the Luv Doc is directly challenging those assumptions. They argue that cooking is a skill anyone can learn and enjoy, regardless of gender.
Right. And to illustrate this point, they bring up the bear again, this time focusing on the character of Carmy, the chef, who's trying to transform his family's struggling sandwich shop into a fine dining restaurant.
Carmy's a fascinating example because he's this classically trained chef who's also dealing with all this personal stuff, grief, family drama, the pressure of keeping a business afloat. It shows that cooking isn't just about following a recipe.
It's about the heart and soul you pour into it, the care and the effort.
Right. And maybe that's what Feeling Foul's boyfriend needs to understand before he can appreciate what she's offering.
And what's interesting is that the Luv Doc actually suggests that this whole turkey debacle might be masking a deeper desire for the boyfriend to connect with Feeling Foul on a more personal level through food.
Oh, that's a really insightful observation. Instead of arguing about the Thanksgiving turkey, maybe they could explore different cuisines together or try new recipes or even take a cooking class together.
Exactly. It could be a way for them to bond and create a deeper understanding of each other.
It's like the Luv Doc is saying, don't just focus on the main course. Pay attention to the side dishes, the appetizers, the little details that reveal what truly nourishes a relationship.
I love that analogy. And on that note of nourishment, the Luv Doc does give Feeling Foul some practical advice. They encourage her to stand her ground and let her boyfriend know that his comments are hurtful.
Right. They even give her a script saying something like, look, honey, I'm happy to cook for you, but I need you to appreciate the effort I put in. If you don't like my cooking, that's fine, but I'm not going to tolerate being belittled.
It's about advocating for herself and setting boundaries.
Exactly. Which is a sign of a healthy relationship, not a weakness.
So all in all, this conversation has been incredibly illuminating. We've touched on communication, gender roles, the historical weight of Thanksgiving, and even the importance of self-respect.
It's amazing how much we've unpacked from just one advice column.
And it shows how food can be this powerful lens through which we view our relationships and our cultural norms.
Absolutely. Food for thought indeed. And speaking of food for thought, we'll wrap up our discussion with some final takeaways and a question for you to consider as you navigate your own holiday gatherings.
All right, listeners, welcome back to our deep dive into this Thanksgiving dilemma.
Yeah.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has. We've explored so many layers of this seemingly simple question about a turkey.
Exactly. And now it's time to distill all this Luv Doc wisdom into some key takeaways that we can all apply to our own lives, especially as we head into the holiday season.
Sounds good to me. Where should we start?
Well, I think the most obvious takeaway is the importance of communication in relationships. I mean, if Feeling Foul's boyfriend had just talked to her about his concerns instead of making those snarky comments, things might have gone a lot smoother.
Oh, for sure. Open and honest communication is crucial. It's the foundation of any healthy relationship.
Right. And it's not just about what you say, but how you say it. Remember that word bland.
Yeah. Ouch. Using a word like that to describe someone's cooking can be really hurtful, even if it's not intended that way.
Exactly. It dismisses all the effort and care that went into preparing the meal. Which brings us to our second takeaway, appreciating the efforts of others.
Absolutely. Whether it's cooking a meal, doing chores, or just lending a listening ear, it's so important to acknowledge and value those acts of service.
It's about recognizing that those actions often come from a place of love and care.
And in Feeling Foul's case, it seems like her boyfriend might be taking her efforts for granted. He's so focused on the outcome, this idea of the perfect Thanksgiving turkey, that he's completely missing the love she's putting into it.
And that brings us to our third takeaway, challenging traditional gender roles, especially in the kitchen.
The Luv Doc is pretty adamant about this. They use humor and pop culture references, like those characters from The Bear, to show that cooking isn't just a woman's job.
It's a skill anyone can learn and enjoy. And maybe by stepping out of those traditional roles, couples can discover new ways to connect with each other.
Imagine if instead of criticizing Feeling Foul's cooking, her boyfriend offered to help in the kitchen, or surprised her by taking a cooking class himself.
That would be a game changer.
Huh.
It would show that he's willing to put in the effort and meet her halfway.
And who knows, maybe they'd even discover a shared passion for cooking.
So to sum it all up, I think the main message here is that food is more than just sustenance. It's a way to express love, build connections, and even challenge cultural norms.
It's about being mindful of the deeper meanings behind the food we share and the way we interact with each other around the table.
Beautifully said. And to leave our listeners with one final thought, I'm going to borrow a question from the Luv Doc. How can we use food to not only nourish our bodies, but also deepen our relationships and create more meaningful connections?
Is it through shared meals, collaborative cooking, or simply taking the time to appreciate the food that's prepared for us?
It's a question worth pondering as we gather with loved ones this holiday season. So from both of us, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this culinary adventure.
To read the column that spawned this podcast, go to austinchronicle.com/columns/the Luv Doc. There are probably worse things to do with your time, right?